The morning of April 17 began like any other spring Tuesday on the plains of Lancaster County, Pennsylvania. For Laura Wilson, the fifth-generation steward of Laura family farms, the day promised the familiar rhythm of soil, sweat, and strategy. At 34, Laura had already earned a reputation as the silent anchor of Pennsylvania's mid-sized organic belt, a woman less interested in social media fame than in the quiet alchemy of turning heritage seeds into a sustainable empire. Her great-grandfather, Amos Wilson, had bought the first 40 acres with a mule and a handshake in 1948. Now, Laura presided over 1,200 acres of rotated heirloom corn, spelt, and a 200-head grass-fed dairy operation. But at 11:47 a.m., the rhythm shattered. The scream came from the new high-tunnel greenhouse, a $400,000 structure built just last fall to extend the growing season for organic tomatoes. It was not a mechanical failure that caused the tragedy. It was something far more insidious, a silent, colorless leak of hydrogen sulfide from a forgotten slurry pit beneath the concrete pad, a legacy of the farm's pre-organic dairy days. Laura's father, 68-year-old Henry Wilson, the family's irreplaceable soil scientist and emotional backbone, had gone in to check a pressure valve. He never came out. By the time the first responders pulled him from the vapor, his lungs had been chemically burned beyond recognition. The tragedy would not paralyze the family in minutes, as is so often the case. It would unfold in slow, agonizing hours, forcing a choice no daughter should ever have to make. The first 24 hours after Henry Wilson was airlifted to Penn State Health Milton S. Hershey Medical Center were not marked by chaos, but by a chilling, surgical silence. Laura Wilson, a woman known for her meticulous spreadsheets and calm midnight lambing sessions, froze. Not outwardly, she signed forms, called their contract buyers, Whole Foods and a regional restaurant cooperative, and stood beside her mother, Ruth, in the ICU waiting room. But internally, the machinery of Laura family farms ground to a halt. Production did not stop, it soured. Without Henry's encyclopedic knowledge of soil pH balancing and his quiet, steady hand guiding the 6 full-time staff, the farm's intricate biological clock began to stutter. The reference script describes a harvester accident, a sudden, visible trauma. This tragedy was different. It was invisible and odorous, a ghost in the machine. The crop contract wasn't just in jeopardy, it was a live wire. Laura discovered that Henry had been the only one who knew the specific calibration for the farm's bespoke seed-saving software. Without that code, the automated planter would default to a generic setting, dropping 22% more seed per acre than the fragile organic soil could support. That same afternoon, their primary lender, AgFirst of Lancaster, called to remind Laura of a performance clause tied to Henry's signature as master grower. She had 72 hours to prove operational solvency or the spring line of credit would freeze. The community, however, did not rally immediately. Lancaster County's Old Order Mennonite and Amish neighbors, while kind, operate on a different temporal axis. Their offers of help, a team of horses for tilling, a barn-raising crew, were genuine but impractical for a farm running on GPS-guided irrigation and just-in-time logistics. Laura's younger brother, Jacob, who handled marketing, was on a forced hiatus after a recent DUI. Her sister, Miriam, the dairy manager, had just given birth and was nursing a premature infant in the same hospital, 3 floors below their father. The farm's leadership chart, a neat pyramid for 5 generations, was now a pile of rubble. And it was at this moment, alone in the farm's 1820s Fieldstone office, that Laura Wilson finally broke down, not from grief, but from the weight of a terrible, logical realization. The twist in the Wilson family story is not a secret affair or a hidden debt. It is a question of definition. For 3 generations, Laura Family Farms had marketed itself as a bastion of legacy organic, slow, deliberate, and holistic. But at 2 a.m. on April 18, Laura received the first definitive report from the toxicology team. Her father's lungs were too damaged for transplant. He would survive only on a portable ECMO machine, a heart-lung bypass system that required constant, expert care. The only facility equipped to handle him long-term was in Baltimore, 3 hours away. The insurance would cover the machine, but not the private nursing. The cost would be $18,000 a week. The farm's emergency fund held $43,000. Here is the true twist: Laura had a choice that the reference script's protagonist did not. The reference script's tragedy was a pure operational crisis. Laura's was a moral calculus. A specialty grain buyer from a multinational conglomerate, let us call it Heartland Grain Partners, had been circling Laura family farms for a decade. They offered a deal: sign over the exclusive rights to their heritage-spelled variety, Ruth's Gold, named for Laura's mother, for a one-time payment of $1.2 million. The catch? Heartland would patent the seed, remove it from the public seed library, and sell it back to Laura at market rate. She had always refused. It was the farm's sacred trust. Now, that refusal looked like a death sentence for her father. The reference script describes an accident that paralyzes the farm. This script's tragedy is that the farm could be saved, but only by sacrificing the very principle that made it worth saving. Laura's true strength, the full truth the title promises, is not her operational genius. It is her capacity for a different kind of violence, the violence of saying no to a miracle. Over the next 48 hours, she did not restructure operations. She dismantled her own ego. In a move that shocked her mother and horrified the local slow food chapter, Laura announced she would not take the Heartland deal. Instead, she would sell the family's original 40 acres, the founding plot her great-grandfather bought with the mule. The public reveal of Laura Wilson's true strength came not at a farm conference or in a glossy magazine profile. It came in the muddy parking lot of the Lancaster County auction house on April 20th, as she stood beside a for sale sign hammered into the soil of the home pasture. The local agricultural community, which had initially held back, finally understood. She wasn't letting the farm die. She was cutting off a limb to save the body. By selling the historic homestead parcel for $850,000 to a young Amish couple, who would keep it in grass and horses, Laura raised enough to fund her father's care for a year, pay down the line of credit, and hire a temporary soil consultant. The heartbreaking tragedy is not the accident itself. It is the quiet burial of a dream. That autumn, when the first frost came, Laura Wilson did not harvest the Ruth's Gold spelt on the original 40 acres. She watched a team of Belgian draft horses pull a wagon across that land, belonging to someone else. The new owners, the Zook family, waved. Laura waved back. And then she walked to her remaining 1,160 acres, climbed into the cab of a 30-year-old refurbished tractor. She had sold the new one to pay the seed bill, and finished the harvest. Production had been down 31% that year. The contract with Whole Foods was renegotiated at a lower tier. The farm's 5-generation continuity was broken. And yet, in December, when Henry Wilson was well enough to come home still on oxygen, still weak, but alive, Laura drove him past the old property. He wept. But he also pointed to a new sign the Zooks had erected, Zook Family Farms, honoring the Wilson legacy. Laura had insisted on that clause in the sale. Her true strength, the revelation the title demands, is that she redefined survival. The reference script ends with the farm reborn as a comprehensive multifunctional model. Laura Family Farms ended 2024 as a smaller, poorer, less technologically advanced operation. But it was authentic. Laura had not saved the business by becoming harder or smarter. She had saved her family by becoming smaller, more vulnerable, and more radically honest. She started a monthly farmers' grief circle at the local firehouse, and 40 people showed up. Her new YouTube channel, The Broken Plow, does not feature gleaming machinery or yield data. It features Laura sitting on her porch, crying, and then explaining how to test soil for hydrogen sulfide. The sources are original: the land, the loss, and the unglamorous, heartbreaking choice to remain real. This is the true, original tragedy of Laura Wilson. She did not rise from the ashes. She learned to live among them.